Hi everybody, welcome to my channel, That's Ready Homeschool. I'm Mrs. T. Today we are going to be talking about what I think are the essentials for creating a successful preschool at home. I am so excited, you guys. I loved preschool homeschooling this past year. We're looking forward to doing it with my second child this upcoming year, and it wasn't always easy, but I do feel like the items that I'm going to talk about here really helped. Now, to me, there are really 5 resources that are absolute must-haves, and my number one resource I think is really under talked about. So I wanted to talk about those top 5, but I also came up with a list of 10 items and 10 things that I think are really nice to have. These are things that really enrich our homeschooling year, but they might not be essentials for you, and that is totally fine. But I think the top 5 is pretty applicable across a bunch of people, no matter what your homeschool style is. So we're gonna go ahead and hop into it. The only thing to note is there will be no curriculum talked about on here. That's a whole other beast. These are just resources and things to support homeschool. All right, so my item number 10 here would be index cards. We use index cards all the time. My children use them during building. They would fold them into different shapes and we would build with them. We did a lot of STEM and STEAM activities with them. We use them for flashcards. With my youngest, we do our phonetic alphabet, which is what we were doing with preschooler at the beginning of the year. And then we use them for making our own board games. You can make story cards on here. The possibilities are absolutely endless, and we love index cards. Number 14 for us is Play-Doh. We love Play-Doh. We absolutely adore it. I do find Play-Doh to be really relatively affordable. It's very cheap, often on sale, but there are so many recipes as well at home that you can make your own sort of Play-Doh, and it's not too difficult. It's a fun activity to do with your kids. Now, there are so many fancy Play-Doh kits out there, and as much fun as it might be to be a dentist with Play-Doh fillings, I find all that stuff completely unnecessary. The things that have been the most used by my children with their Play-Doh are not the toys that other people have given them for Play-Doh, but rather, I'm not even kidding you, simple utensils. Fork, butter knife, spoon. That's it. Oh, and we have a chopstick. We rotate our little chopsticks. And my kids love that. The possibilities that the creations that they make are so unique. One of the children will make some sort of meal for another one. The other one's sitting there with his fork and knife, and they're talking like they're having some they're grown-ups. It's very sweet and very cute, but definitely Play-Doh with simple things for them to use it. That's really all you need. You don't need anything too fancy. Okay, number 13 for us is crayons. We love crayons, and I know that there are some methodologies of teaching out there that discourage things like coloring sheets, but I find having a mix of coloring sheets and just blank pages are absolutely essential. It's essential for my child to be able to learn how to color lines. That's a really good fine motor skill. I think it's really undervalued by some of those teaching methodologies out there. But at the same time, absolutely having a bunch of empty pages, blank sheets, and letting their creativity go wild, I think that's really key as well. So having both, I think that it's been really good and very enriching for my child to be able to stop and color and do all that kind of stuff. Number 12, pencils. There are so many different types of brands that are out there, and I'm not married to a particular brand. I just happen to find these on sale. But looking for a pencil that is meant for younger writers, to me, has been essential. Now, my children did not need any sort of pencil grips, so I'm not going to speak to pencil grips. They were not essential in our homeschool, but having a thicker pencil that with a good eraser was really key for both of my children, but definitely my preschooler. These are really key, I think, are good pencils. Number 11 are puzzles and games. Now, games and puzzles can be really expensive. So I want to talk about games first. We have an assortment of games that we absolutely love, but you don't need them. You don't need any board games or anything fancy. I just happen to be a huge board game lover. In fact, let me show you a picture of my own collection. My husband and I love board games. So for us, that love kind of naturally moved into wanting to play board games with our children, but it's not necessary for homeschooling. I will say though that games are very helpful. So if there's anything that I would recommend for starting out and having some sort of gaming element to your preschool, it's buying a single deck of cards and a pair of dice. And there is so much that you can do with that. You can play Go Fish, Memory, there are counting games, using the dice for different counting games, addition and subtraction. It's really easy to come up with some really creative games using just a deck of cards and dice. And you can also just Google it. There are so many game ideas out there. And I will actually do a whole video about things that you can do in the preschool years with just these resources, because they are really, really valuable. And I think they're undervalued. You could just easily pick up something like that very, very affordably. Now, puzzles, there are really two kinds of puzzles that you can do. You can do the traditional puzzles that have like the puzzle pieces that fit together. And then you have what I would say like a non-traditional puzzle where you're completing a picture, but they're not the typical puzzle shapes. Now I want to show you two of our favorite, but these particular puzzles are not essential. And if you don't want to have a bunch of puzzles, that's okay too. A lot of libraries do have access to puzzles that you can either take home or use there. So I would definitely go into your children's room and talk to your librarian and see what options they have. They might have board games and puzzles for you and your family to enjoy. But let me show you first our favorite traditional puzzle. It is from Mud Puppy, and it is a 2-in-1 puzzle. It is double-sided and 100 pieces. As of today, my child can do this version all by himself. He doesn't do it in one sitting, and you don't have to do puzzles in one go. He cannot yet finish this one by himself. He does need some help. The bones are very difficult because they're less distinctive markers, but this has been an incredible tool. Now, our favorite non-traditional puzzle here is from Lakeshore Learning. It is a United States puzzle. And as you can see, the puzzle pieces are actually the states. They are not like those traditional puzzle pieces that fit together. And that would be probably our favorite one that we did this past year that's like a non-traditional jigsaw style puzzle. All right, number 10 for us is a magnifying glass. We love our magnifying glasses. They're so cheap on Amazon, and you can also get them in educational stores as well. And we absolutely love this. My kids use this all the time, and we go outside with them. They observe nature, and they just get lost, you guys. They get lost entirely in the micro world that we walk over every single day without thinking about. So they'll sit there, they'll observe the grass and the bugs and the dirt. They will find treasure, they'll find trash. And we have actually found things like fossils and really cool looking rocks because they've been like scouring our yard. It's been really, really fun. Actually, we really enjoy that aspect of it. We also play a lot of like detective with these, and where they're looking for clues, and a lot of it is nothing fancy. Like, I'm not even creating clues. They just will walk around the house like with this up to their eyes, and they're observing everything. Or they help me find dirt, and like we clean. For the record, we don't need this to find our dirt. It's usually pretty obvious. But they like to walk around, look for dirt, and find things and spots for us to clean. And it's really fun. It's very enjoyable and engaging. But what I love about the magnifying glass is it brings your child, it transports them into looking at the fine details around them. They become engrossed with not just the big picture, but all the things that make up the big picture. So, not just like, oh yes, it's a tree, but zooming in and looking at the leaves and the bark and the animals that use the tree, the scat that's around there, the bugs that are using it as their homes, the woodpecker holes, all those sort of things are observable with a magnifying glass, and it transports them there. It really sparks this love of like inquiry and curiosity, and I definitely recommend a magnifying glass. That's a really good one. Even if you're not doing science, just pulling it out, bringing it with you outdoors is really, really valuable. Number 9 for us are dry erase pockets. So we use these all the time. We have 2 different styles, one with the pocket opening here, and then we have another one with the pocket opening on the side, and we use them absolutely every day. We put the pieces of curriculum that we want to reuse in here, and he will just do the work front and back, and we make our way through it, and it's wonderful. They're affordable. They're often on sale at Target, and definitely on sale online, and we absolutely love it. Related to dry erase pockets is we also have dry erase boards. I was considering getting a big board, and ultimately we decided to use small boards, and I'm really glad that we did. And that is simply because my child likes to be nice and close when we use these things. So we use it oftentimes for writing like vocabulary, working on phonics, math games. We've used it for a lot of different things. We use them every single day, and we really do enjoy them. Also writing, like freestyle writing practice is really nice with dry erase boards because you just erase it when we're done and we're not wasting a bunch of paper. It's a great tool. We use it all the time. Number 7 are miniature animals. I love these. Our kids love these. They're great for free play, but they're really good as a manipulative for math, and they're really good with phonics. You can work on things like, can you find the animal that starts with that sound? Yay, you found the moose. Now, when I started acquiring these, which there are definitely a bunch of different quality of these out there. There are some really expensive kits and there are some really cheap kits and everything in between. When I first started, I was trying to like get things where the animals were kind of about the correct size, like comparatively. But you guys, that's so silly. You don't need that. My kids do not care that the iguana is the same size as the moose, basically. They don't care about that stuff. So you don't worry about like making sure everything is uniform. They don't need it to be accurate. They need it to be there for play and open world building and just being able to immerse themselves into the animal kingdom. They don't need it to be perfect, okay? So don't be perfect. Number 6 for me, and this is our last really nice to have, is a stool. I'll put the picture of the 2 different kinds of stools that we have up here, but it is so nice to have stools that you can put in the kitchen in particular to allow your child to get up close and involved in things like cooking and baking and putting away dishes, etc., etc. I feel like my child absolutely needed to have that level of involvement, feeling like he's being included, and I can't stress how important it is to do that. Now, there are all sorts of fancy, like Montessori style stools out there that people absolutely swear by, and I'm not bashing. We don't have one of those. We just bought like a simple, relatively cheap, stools are not like $5, but a relatively affordable stool just from like, I think Walmart. And it's been working great. It's light, it's easy. My child can move it by himself, which is a big plus, and we really, really like it. Okay, you guys, now let's get into our absolute must-haves. Number 5 is music. I feel like this resource is never talked about, but music is essential in your preschool. Playing music that they can learn from. There's lots of things about like talking about planets and the alphabet and sounds and different languages. You can talk about days of the week and months. There are so many educational things that you can find that are in song. There's just so much you can do with music. It's very enriching. And I think that music is really not often talked or is not talked about enough in preschool, homeschool videos, but music is absolutely essential. I want to share with you some of our favorites. So we love Juice Box Jukebox, Super Simple Songs, The Learning Station, and then like there's like a collection of Sandra Boynton's songs that we really, really love. But one of the really nice albums that my children absolutely loved this past year is from a band called Tom Mason and the Blue Buccaneers. He has a pirate songs for kids that are so good, and they're just really enjoyable. My kids love them. I highly recommend checking out that album. That one is a lot of fun. And then we also listen to a lot of Cocomelon in French and Kaboomers in French. Those are our primary like French songs that we really listen to as well. But music, so undervalued as a resource. It is incredible how much you can learn through song. All right, number 4 for me is an outdoor space that your child can explore. And I mean really explore. Parks are lovely. I'm not bashing parks. We go to parks all the time. But what for us was really essential was finding an area where there were some local native plants and trees and something that wasn't always crowded. It can be your front yard, your backyard. It can be at the park. It could be at the side of the park. It really, just a local hiking spot. Wherever it is that you can find where you and your family explore and visit often is extremely valuable. It creates this connection with your child to your local area. It also it builds a sense of independence, right? The more that you start to visit a place, the more that your child is going to want to explore a little bit on his own, to climb those rocks, to, get up and close, impersonal with the trees. So if you're going, make sure you make sure there's no like poison ivy or poison oak or sumac or whatever it is. You want to avoid spots like that, but you want them to be able to dig and to get messy and to be there and to make the spot their own. One of the things about having an outdoor space that they feel connected to that I think is really undervalued is just the social and emotional development that happens when they are outdoors and when they feel that connection. Like, there were times where when my child is upset, he will say that he just wants to go outside. And he'll go immediately to the spots like in our yard that he feels most connected to, and he will literally just sit there and process his emotions. And it doesn't always happen that way. It's not always pretty, right? Sometimes his emotions are like loud, but having that connection helps. Being outside helps. Smelling fresh air, it helps. It helps, and it is extremely valuable. I have found, especially in the preschool year, not always being outside and finding that area that they can be a little independent and be outside it was really valuable. All right, number 3 should be no surprise. We love books. We talk about books all the time, but books. Having an exposure to a number of books. Now, I do think that there is this movement where people really kind of bash twaddle books or books that don't really have like a good plot. To us as adults, maybe they're not classic or they don't really have like a message. They're just like, feel a little bit like a waste of a time. I don't enjoy reading those books. However, I do think that they have a place in your homeschool and that it's important that your children find those books and have access to reading those books and can enjoy those books, because ultimately in the preschool year, we want to engage our child, get them interested in stories, get them interested in thinking creatively, understanding what's going on. And believe it or not, a lot of that twaddle is what's important to them. They might really be interested in that Paw Patrol book more than, I don't know, Make Way for the Ducklings or whatever. Or, they need to be able to find a connection. So if their connection is in what we would call kind of like twaddle literature, that's okay. Allow them to have that connection, allow that exposure. Now, it is really important for you as the parent to also choose books and to also pick them up. And I think that those books are really like the good books, the better books, the more educational books are definitely valuable, and I would highly recommend them. But don't discourage your child from picking up any kind of book unless it's deemed inappropriate in your house, right? There are certain boundaries. Like my child the other day, we went to the library and he's like, can we look at the adult section? It's like, why don't we wait till you're older for that? But anyway, I digress. Books are really, really important. You don't have to own them. And that's going to bring me to my item number 2, a library card. So important in the preschool year is having access to a library card. Not just so you can access a bunch of books, but also to establish, again, a connection to this place of information and establishing a connection with your librarian or your children's librarian. They are such valuable resources, you guys. They know so much. I went in there and I was like, asking questions like, we're wanting to learn about XYZ thing, and they lead you immediately to the books, and they have opinions like, this one's really good because you can learn about this part. This one's really good but does have a lot more text. And there's just so much information that's inside the head of those amazing people that work at the library. I highly, highly recommend picking up a library card, allowing your child to be a part of that checkout process, and allow them to pick. You pick, mama and dad. You guys can pick your books as well for the kids to enjoy it with you and just be there. All right, my number one resource. It is never talked about explicitly here on YouTube, but the number one resource for a successful preschool year is you. You are the best resource. What you have to offer, regardless of your financial means, regardless of your background, that is the most valuable. Being present with your child, putting down the phone, being engaged, having intentional conversations, exploring, listening to your child, talking with your child, singing with your child, and dancing and playing. These are, you can't replace it. No number of counting bears and flashcards and fancy pencils are going to replace you. You are the key. I think that there, especially in the YouTube world and social media, we really want to do what's best for our kids, right? We're homeschooling. A lot of us feel this motivation because we do think it's best for our families and our children. And we want to do it right. So we buy all these things. But at the end of the day, you guys, especially here in the early years, you matter most. Your involvement and your intentions, that is what's key. Spending those times with your children, that is what's key. Just being us and being present, being willing to learn with them, and acknowledging that it's a journey for both of us, right? It's a journey for me as a person. I'm learning a lot while teaching, and my children are going to be learning a lot while learning. It's a great process, but we are absolutely the best resource. So my big takeaway here is no matter the pencils you have or the books you own or the quality of the library that's around the bend, if you are intentional and you are involved, you are going to have a successful preschool year. I really, truly believe that. You don't need anything fancy, you guys. But anyway, that is it. I am curious. Tell me down below in the comments, what are some of your essentials? What are the things that you found to be very helpful this past year? I can't wait to hear about it, and I will talk to you soon. Bye, everyone.